Sudheer, welcome to this episode of the NewSpace India podcast. Thank you so much for taking a lot of your time for recording this episode with me.
Most welcome.
So I wanted to know, firstly, a little bit about your own background before we get into, your current work in ISRO and so on. So can you, briefly describe how you entered ISRO and your career so far as to what got you into this capacity building planning office?
Oh, nice. It reminded me to at least to recollect my whole history. Fine. I'm a graduate in mechanical engineering from REC Warangal at that time. Nowadays it's called as NIT Warangal. After graduation, I have done the post graduation in industrial engineering from SV University, Andhra Pradesh, which is close to my native town. After that, I got selected to Tata Steel through campus interview. I had a very fortunate experience in Tata Steel for more than 6 years. I learned a lot of things in Tata Steel because it's one of the very good organizations to work with, especially for the learners or beginners. After that, I got an opportunity to get selected to ISRO again through national advertisement. I competed, I got selected to ISRO. I opted to join Sriharikota, happened to be which is hardly 100 kilometers away from my native place. That's the reason I've chosen. After that, initially I was involved in developing a ERP package for our administration system, which caters to the administration, purchase, accounts, finance, and such kind of modules for our day-to-day operation of our ISRO administrative processes. Later, I got into Mark 3 project, GSLV Mark 3 project, which is the rather fourth generation or third generation launch vehicle for ISRO, which is totally self-reliant, and most of the technologies we developed in-house. And I happen to get associated with the Asia's largest solid propellant plant, what we call it as SPP at Sriharikota, and very important launch integration and assembly facilities, which will cater to the GSLV Mark 3 project. Later, it was very fortunate based on this experience I gained during this project management. I had to handle the largest assembly building for ISRO, that is second vehicle assembly building. It is a fascinating and it is a fantastic project, which is a multidisciplinary project which involves civil, electrical, AC, plumbing, satellite cooling systems, various fabrication works, platforms, EOT cranes, doors, such kind of whatever you imagine, the magnitude would be 10 times your normal, whatever you see, such kind of projects. So ISRO has really, I have learned a lot from my basics from Tata Steel, and subsequently implementing the knowledge what I gained in Tata Steel in the real-time projects. Now I successfully completed more than 20 years in my project management career, gained a lot of experience in multidisciplines, not only in, even though I'm basically a mechanical engineer with the industrial engineering background, I gained civil engineering, electrical engineering, air conditioning engineering, so many fabrication criticalities. Thanks that after that, I moved to ISRO headquarters as a part of capacity building program office, which is responsible for identifying and the gaps and in terms of technical infrastructure, technologies, critical technologies, IPRs, patents, and outreach programs, which are all coming under my portfolio. Probably, I think I should thank the ISRO management to give me a greater opportunity to serve ISRO in turn my country.
So thank you for that, pretty great introduction. So it's great to know that you have a vision of having worked in the organization for more than 20 years, and you can see that through a very wide lens. So to begin this kind of a conversation, why was, for example, the capacity building program office created in ISRO, and what was the need for it, and how do you foresee its work benefiting the country in total?
It's a very nice question. See, ISRO, especially space domain, is a very versatile domain, and it is a niche area. I always use that word, niche area. And many technologies, they fall in the dual nature, and the availability of the technologies, you call it as equipment, in terms of equipment, in terms of technical know-how, is very difficult from obtaining from the advanced countries. So one has to be self-reliant to make sure that your visions, ambitions are in place, especially in the space domain. Further, most ISRO, unlike other countries, India is concentrating more on the societal applications, more to the public, more to the common man. Because of the population and because of the vast resources, the space applications can be made applicable to each and every segment of the society. You take it as forest, you could take it as natural resources, you take it as education, you take it as any name you take. There, the space application would be there. The insurance, the banking system, the aviation, everywhere. So if you wanted to be at par with the advanced nations or developing nations, you should be self-reliant. Not only that one, the realization times of these projects are pretty longer, and you should first develop the capability of uh, designing the systems. Then you should have proper schedule to realize, which will take pretty long time. Unless otherwise you start thinking of these processes or these projects or these realizations well in advance, maybe 5 to 10 years before, it is not possible to achieve these goals. Probably, I think one concerted effort is required while the organization is concentrating on the ongoing processes. I think ISRO management felt that there should be a group or agency or a division which will constantly look for the opportunities, whether within the ISRO or outside the ISRO, for developing for building the capacities, for identifying the gaps between the future demands and current availabilities. They should make a plan, roadmap for achieving the desired goals. This is what the ISRO management has felt, and a exclusive program office has been created with uh, qualified people and competitive people. I think ISRO's vision is admirable, and it is giving the results.
Right. So, given that your background and your experience in SHAR, and today your current position in ISRO headquarters, can you talk a little bit about how traditionally vendors have engaged with ISRO? Because I have never worked with ISRO as such, inside the organization or so on. So I always have an external eye, and many of us have an external eye. There's very little people who can have the experience of working from inside an organization like ISRO, like you have. And to my eyes, it looks like the vendors, basically they are completely reliant on ISRO for orders, and there is no, let's say, um, product based, IP based R&D that a lot of them do. Maybe 90% of them are heavily reliant on providing manufacturing or services support to ISRO in the current state. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with a lot of the vendors, and how they have evolved over the period of time, and how they can mature to be not just serving ISRO's need, but graduate to also export a lot of the things that they can produce outside to the global market?
Very good question you asked, Naren. In fact, I had a fortune to work with these vendors for last 18 years, I should say, because most of the vendors were projects by virtue of my working and by virtue of my demand on me. The vendor development and vendor interaction was huge as far as me is concerned with major projects. See, I just put forth my points like this. If you call it as vendor, the vendors are different types of vendors are there. Let us say ISRO programs, how any R&D program or ISRO program can be conceived is, first is new project development, which is ISRO is basically an R&D organization. Our endeavor should be always to conceive new projects, developmental projects for either increasing the payload or low cost access to the space or advanced technologies. Such kind of things is one side of the story. Second side of the story, being National Space Agency, and it is our responsibility to create the infrastructure either to be utilized by ISRO or by others non-ISRO people, and operate and maintain these facilities. The third thing is, because governmental projects or launches have to be handled by ISRO because of various reasons. Now, fortunately, the recent reforms, the government of India has given a mandate to ISRO to encourage private people for increasing the number of missions, which we are uh, in the process of conceiving the entire platform. So far, number of launches were less, and most of the things are societal needs and national requirements. So the missions realizing, let us say you call it as a program realization. If you call it as PSLV is a program, different inputs will come from the ministries, and the requirements will come from the government of India. We have to produce, we have to manufacture the satellites as per the demands of the different ministries. We have to launch them. We have to ensure that the satellites in space, they are working properly, and if at all any corrections are required, this is called operation phase. One is research development, another one is infrastructure, another one is operating the manufacturing and launching the satellites using in-house developed launch vehicles. So in these three lines always ISRO go. Now additional vertical has come to encourage the private people to attract the global space market and enable them transferring the technologies so that India industry also at par with ISRO technical know-how. This is the fourth dimension you have to. When you are realizing these things, some of the things are project based. Like let us say I am developing one new assembly vehicle building or a wind tunnel. It is one-time project. This we call it as infrastructure projects. These infrastructure projects are one-time, and many people do not have the technical know-how. So we have to bifurcate them into a minute level. Let us say a fabrication is there. Ultimately, we have to design and identify the fabrication projects and release the tenders. So these people are no industry will be exclusive for ISRO. So many industries, they are involved in the fabrication. They also do the infrastructure projects for ISRO. So such kind of one-time activities or turnkey projects are one type of vendors. The second type of vendors, they are built basically in the research field. We give the concept, we will jointly do the research, and we will jointly evolve the systems. And by the time system is matured, we will transfer this technology, and we will enable them to produce in mass basis. This I call it as, let us say, satellite field antennas are there, reflectors are there, so many electronic components are there. Let us say if we come to launch vehicle side, fabrication items are there. Most of the items or subsystems will be produced in industry only. I don't call them as vendors, I call them as partners, because they are sharing our load. If we take launch vehicle side, the participation of vendors are the partners are pretty high. Even it has, if it is PSLV, it is more than around 80 to 85%. If it is GSLV Mark 3, because most of the launch vehicles that almost self-dependent except for few materials, aluminum alloy, such kind of things. These are all routine in nature. Once if you release the design and if you have qualified the vendor, and it is only routine supplies. The third thing is operation and maintenance. For operation maintenance, let us say you take launch port or you take test facilities, IPRC, such kind of centers. Huge infrastructure is there. It involves metal handling equipments, EOT cranes, so many machines, so many process equipment, electronics instruments, radars. All this requires spare parts once if the infrastructure is built. After that, operation maintenance. For operation maintenance, some operation guys who knows about the operation of the such equipments, and for maintenance, spares and consumables. So if you see if you make a map of all these vendors, a fellow who is a spares manufacturer for automobiles, he need not be exclusive for a space. He can be anybody who can supply the forklifts, who can supply the tractors, trailers based on the capacity. So if you see, it is nothing like that. Everything is a generic in nature, unless otherwise you know much about the inside stories of the space domain. Then only you will realize it is nothing but a association of general industries, which otherwise they can use for other purpose other than space. I hope I made your point clear.
Yeah, to a certain extent, for sure. So I want to just build on top of this. You did mention about the different ways in which industry engages with ISRO, or the partners engages with ISRO. So as far as I understand, every ISRO center operates independently with the partners, and because every ISRO center has a different mandate, slightly different mandate with respect to either the spacecraft development or the launch vehicle development or the payload development. So is the structure of engagement with the industry directly with the set ISRO center? So in this case, in your case, for example, it would be that SHAR independently identifies partners in industry that it wants to work with, and the SHAR as a center itself engages independently, and that specific vendor has also maybe the opportunity to, let's say, if somebody wants to work with them in SAC or URSC or VSSC, they can work with them independently. Is that how the structure works?
Let me elaborate. Probably since you have asked this question, let me elaborate. See, as I told you, the vendors are, most of the vendors are common, but very specific vendors are there. Let us say I take some examples so that your question will be made clear. You take materials. See, rocket motor cases. This is the responsibility of Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, and all projects are run under the flagship of VSSC. When for producing the material for motor cases, the materials are required. These motor cases are not produced at SHAR, at IPRC, at other centers. So for procuring the materials, maybe some exclusive vendors may be there. But if we take electronic equipment will be supplied by a common fellow for satellites, for avionics at VSSC, for satellites at SAT and URSC, LEOS, and IASU. And for process equipment, the same vendor or the same supplier may supply the process equipment to SHAR, IPRC. So we cannot say that this is exclusive. Maybe to some cases, let us say, I'll explain the solid propellant you take. Solid propellant motors are produced in SHAR, that everybody knows it. That is a solid propellant, raw material, propellant materials only will be consumed by SHAR. Maybe to some extent VSSC, RPP. Okay, so some few are the people who are supplying the solid propellants may be confined to 2 centers because other requirement is not there. But if you take spares of metal handling equipment, because a huge fleet of metal handling equipment is there. This is common for IPRC, VSSC, URSC, SHAR, everywhere the same common vendors will be there. So we cannot say specifically that exclusive vendors, but probably these centers are working independently as far as contracts are concerned. Because of convenience, because of contract administration, because of several reasons, because they're demographically far away. Each MD center is around 350 to 400 kilometers away. Because of administrative reasons, we have a setup. There is no centralized procurement, but few of the things there is a centralized procurement, like computers, servers. We can go for centralized procurement. Such kind of things we cannot generalize that it is center specific or exclusiveness is there in the vendor selection and this thing. And many of the vendors, if I take A class vendors, many of the vendors are common to many centers. That means one vendor is common to many centers. Like that, many vendors are there. But when it comes to the specific requirement of that particular center, let's say chemical liquid propellant, ultimately all chemical propellants are required on the day of launch. So there is no point in supplying chemicals to other centers where it is not required. So the entire operations will go like this. But I should say one word, that there is no such kind of exclusivity, and we have a vendor base which is common for all the centers. Based on the requirement, the one vendor can supply to more than one center.
Right, and in many cases, ISRO has passed on the technology for the vendor to then produce it for ISRO, so that many of the engineers in ISRO can focus on developing new technologies. So, can you give some examples or ways in which vendors have been developed by ISRO?
Yes, this is quite common. See, basically what again, I go back to the same thing. Space grade materials will not be utilized by anybody else other than space. You take it as maraging steel, you take it as special aluminum alloys, inconel alloys. You take it as special here pipes which are exclusively high grade, space grade, because there are very processes involved, several qualification procedures are involved. The cost is also huge. Why? Because it has to undergo several tests. So in these areas, uh, we have to develop the industry, qualify the industry, and qualification and developing the industry is a Herculean task. Second thing is, when no industry is coming forward to supply to us, just to encourage the industry or to offload the work otherwise should have been done by ISRO, we enter into contracts. This is because this is the initial stage. So I will tell you example of HTPB. HTPB require the production of HTPB is essential for producing the rocket motor, solid propellant rocket motors. At that time when we have floated, as per the government rules only we will go, as per procedures, that is public announcement will be there. Those industries interest inserted, they will express their interest. After that, bidding process will be there. Whoever wins in the open competition, we will transfer the technical know-how. If they are interested to invest, yes, they will invest and they will supply to us at unit rate basis. If an exclusive thing is there which industry is not interested to invest, but still we require that particular item, cases are there that we have invested and made them to operate and maintain and supply to us. So several materials, if you take the material, all space grade materials, yes, one industry we have developed. Midhani we have developed, is a government concern. HTBB we have developed two vendors. Let us say aluminum powder, other things. Even though aluminum powder is otherwise used for other crackers purpose, but the grade, that the granularity, etc., what is required requires special qualification procedures. We have to educate them. In this way we have to make it. Okay, like that, several initial days, not nowadays, since the system has been matured, this kind of technical the vendor development has come down, except for fabrication. Let us say motor case fabrication, it requires a qualifying procedures. Control system manufacturing or production, it requires a different procedures to qualify the systems. Otherwise, the cost of poor quality is huge, run into hundreds of crores. So we have to handhold the vendors. We have to impart the technology. We will ensure that their setup is qualified and deliver the goods. There are several occasions, many industries we have handheld them, and we have developed They are traveling with us for decades. If increase in the production is increased, again we are is a qualification of vendors is a continuous process. But investments have come down in the recent past. Government is not investing. In fact, industry is very favorably coming forward. Only thing is we have to show the business for them, because ultimately for the private people it is only ROI matters.
Right, that is absolutely correct in that sense. So, as far as I can see from an external lens, a lot of the industry development is happening in terms of being able to produce a lot of the systems, subsystems, being able to support a lot of the infrastructure running and operations and so on. So, I was curious to know if there are any like end-to-end service contracts that are possible to be evolved in ISRO over time? Because obviously, until now, if you take, for example, the example of Europe, where I'm based, for example, the European Space Agency over time has created mechanisms where industry can, let's say, design its own satellites, and they only give out the service requirements. They'll only say, for example, for the Sentinel satellites, that we need 3-meter resolution imagery over this area and over this quality and so on. And then the open tender allows Airbus or Thales or whoever XYZ companies OHP to then apply their own designs and compete for price to provide the service. And in that sense, they will then have the design knowledge over time to build end-to-end satellites as such. So from my, at least my external lens, this is a phenomena that is still yet to occur in India, right?
I may not agree with you in full sense, because see, as far as the development is concerned, satellites are different. Let us say if you bring out, if you distinguish two different items, satellites and launch vehicles. In the launch vehicles, the qualification will be done at the first time. After the qualification is over, it is only routine productionization. So design will not involve. But for any additional payloads or some kind of additional features for improving the payload, a minor modification changes do happen. But these will be part of R&D exercise of ISRO. So in such cases, what we do, we transfer this marginal design modifications to the industry, so that they will incorporate the same and make very marginal corrections to the structures, so that the intended payload gain will happen. That is the launch vehicle side. When it comes to, let us say, I've forgotten, one thing is composites. In the recent past, many more such kind of subsystems have been given to the industry. In fact, they were designing and delivering it based on the requirements. But some of the industries, they may say that when they say it is a very difficult question to answer where actually it cracks, but they always see the cost benefit analysis. If the design cost is much more than what the revenue they are getting out of this contract, many people they may not show interest. This is one aspect which has to be considered, and we cannot wait till the business grows or turnover goes, so that the industry will take up the design aspect also. So in such cases, we do, and R&D is a part of our system, always thinking how to increase the payload or how to reduce the launch cost, the cost of access to the space. So such kind of, as a part of this R&D, if few designs come out, we will share. But as far as satellite is concerned, we also adopt this practice, say build to print and build to design. These two are there. When we tell this is the way we want the results, many industries, they are building to design, they are realizing the subsystems. We have been using this one. It is not new for us. It is not new for us. They are, but end to end, I agree. End to end, for developing this one, industry has to come forward. Maybe some regulations may be required. Oh, that action recently government has taken. I think probably whatever you are thinking end-to-end building the satellites, probably you will listen very soon.
Right, and historically, I think given the risk and the investment, it would not be favorable for even the industry in that sense to, or they may not be such appetite within the industry to invest, given the amount of risk there is in realizing such a spacecraft, and that may be just the way the vendor ecosystem and the risk appetite within the vendors were so far, right?
This is one way, because no, see, as far as they are supplying item to us, the qualification procedure and qualification responsibility is with ISRO. One aspect is when you are doing the testing and qualification, if majority of the systems are failing, this is a penalty on the industry. The second aspect is you leave the entire satellite building to industry. Industry has to build the satellite and it has to take the responsibility if at all it is failed in orbit. It is up to the industry. Such kind of maturity, still I say that it has not come for the Indian industry because of several reasons. Now industry is showing interest and approaching ISRO. Probably we have to positively respond to them, and we should enable them. And important thing is the market. These industries, they should concentrate not on the Indian satellite market. They should concentrate on the global satellite market also. Then probably whatever the turnover that comes to them, probably ROS and the capital investments, because the first is end-to-end means a lot of machinery and test equipment is required to qualify even a small satellite. You call it as EMCMI facilities, you call it as radiation test facilities, you call it as, you take vibration test facilities, you take acoustics test facilities. Such kind of facilities are very capital intensive, first point. And when our national requirement is for huge satellites, that is a 1000 kg and above, maybe communication satellites 6 tons, the facilities that are required for qualifying the satellites, the capital is huge, running into hundreds or thousands of crores. Probably industry, if they don't have ROI, they may not come forward. That could be these could be the two reasons. Probably I think when the demand goes, definitely some industries, we expect that Indian industries also pick up the race, and they will do the end-to-end building of the satellites.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. So we talked a lot about the nature of the engagement of the industry and so on. How ready do you think Indian industry is, given the 300 or 400 core vendors that ISRO has? How many of them are geared towards being able to cater to the global market? How ready are they? What are the positives you see in them, and what are the areas do you think they can improve on?
See, most of the vendors or parties who supply the systems to us are at subsystem level. The backward integration is required, and whatever the support that we give or we intend to give, we have already offered to them. Probably the major industries, maybe the corporate industries, they have to come forward. Again, I'm telling it is not the readiness, because many of the industries, they are competing for majority of the systems globally. It is not the incompetency of the system. It is again boiling down to the business. If business is there, because for establishing any because they cannot depend totally on ISRO facilities, and they should not also. Why? Because for everything, if they depend on the ISRO facilities, a lot of non-value added activities will be there. On critical facilities, capital intensive facilities, they can make use of the ISRO facilities. At least minimum with them, they should be self-reliant. Again, some capacity expansion may be required. So they have to see, the industries have to see the business case based on the market viability, based on the demand, based on their capability, how they can penetrate into the global market. And it should be seen in that angle. As far as capacity positiveness is concerned, every industry in the country, in India, are very enthusiastic and they're fascinating to enter into the space business. But ultimately, the business is not just capability of producing it. It is a mix of revenues, sustainability, the demand, the future projection. Today, the demand will be there. Tomorrow, if that demand is not there, these are all the questions industry is raising. Probably in European or American scenario may be different. Why? Because a lot of private players are there. So to that extent, the industries should get educated. They should go globally. That's what we are also telling the same thing. If you concentrate on only on Indian space domain, probably your ROI will not work out. You have to grow globally. When global thing is come a market share, because today the projection 2019 projection is 360 billion. In that one, only market for the satellite and the share is only less than around maybe less than 20%. So for that 20%, many space agencies are there. How much you will pick up? So this is a question which industries have to answer. But as far as the openness is and competency is concerned, no industry is inferior to the global standards. They're all very good and they're all very positive. But probably I think they have to pick up the global business and they see the business as uh, the positive, economically viable, and they should get into this thing. We are also hoping to see this kind of radical change.
Yes, absolutely. And do you have a sense if we have any statistics on collected by any organization for that matter on how many of Indian vendors who cater to the ISRO supply chain also export their capabilities abroad?
I should say each and every fellow, each and every vendor who is supplying to ISRO can supply to the global space, provided there is an opportunity. Because each and every equipment you take, bolts, you take washers, you take let's say fasteners, you take subsystems of this thing, you take propellant tanks, you take control systems, you take electronics, you take electronic packages. I think we are not inferior to any, because no, otherwise no satellite will fly. It is impossible for getting the satellite services. Today, when we are getting the satellite services at par with any global standard, it is out of these vendors who supply the items to us. Each and every vendor can compete with global standards. Only thing is they should have knack, they should have a passion, they should have smartness to enter into the global business. And global space agencies or global tier one vendors also, they should invite these people, because it is give and take policy. If let us say X company is there, I don't want to name them. If they are not interested to pick up the material from Indian countries, then what these people will do? There should be an opportunity and there should be a facilitator who should bridge these two people. And definitely any business, any vendor or tier one vendor or any producer of the rocket, as long as they are getting a product at lesser cost and better quality, they don't mind opening the business to anybody. But some facilitators should be there to connect the demand and the supply, and make a platform so that these two people will exchange and cross transfer of commercial aspects will happen. Probably I look in that angle, in that angle. Probably the platform is required for everybody, because most of the people, they're all MSMEs, they're all micro small scale industries. They may not have technical know-how or know-how about the requirement abroad. And abroad people who does uh, a lot of space business, they may not be aware that these people are there in India, and these people can supply the quality goods and at very competitive prices. I think this kind of bridging the gap, if it happens, probably I feel that Indian, at least if not 300 or 400, at least 50% of them will get a chance to get exposed themselves to the global market.
Right, and one of the hot topics, of course, in the last 4 or 5 years is all the rise of the startups in India, and especially very prominent startup nowadays like Bellatrix or Skyroot or some of these other companies that have come up. Um, so, what do you like? I get a lot of questions often from people who reach me out on email or LinkedIn or so on to say what is the way that they can engage as a startup with ISRO. So, could you briefly talk about how startups and especially your CBPO division plans to engage with startups?
Yeah, this is obviously, I agree with you. This is a buzzword. Uh, say off late, we have started this program couple of months back only. Probably I'm also trying my level best. In fact, chairman is personally pursuing this whatever the proposals that come from startups in a very positive way. But whatever the support they are asking, probably we are extending to them to their satisfaction under the under the umbrella of procedures, so-called government rules and regulations. Probably, I think what I anticipate is these startups, we are encouraging them. In fact, there is even Niti Aayog and Government of India is also committed for developing the startups, and slowly it is picking up. But each and every startup, they should come with an action plan rather than openly asking what we can do, what we can, what in which area you will give it the opportunity. A minimum homework any startup has to do, and they should understand the procedures, government procedures, and our framework for exchanging anything, because they should not expect, because in the government we cannot be as open as an individual business or a sole proprietary business. Some regulations will be there, some rules will be there, some procedures will be there, we are binding. But ISRO is very famous for acting very fast, and we do take these suggestions or proposals in a very positive spirit. They should come with an action plan. In fact, I was also discussing on one-to-one basis with many startups what you want, because the main problem with the startups is funding. But of course, because of the current pandemic situations, probably the situation should improve and we should encourage the people. But presently, we told each and every startup that the facilities are available for you. Only thing is, what you want to do, you should come with an action plan. We do encourage the startups. But nevertheless, one important point I just wanted to make it here: the startups should concentrate more on the application side. Here, the applications are known, but implementation plan may not be known to both the user as well as for the implementer. These startups should have some benchmarking with advanced countries, how artificial intelligence or machine learning or IoT have been used for several applications, both for remote sensing and for communication purposes. They should educate the government. They should go and meet the government with some action plan. They look, let us say, example, I will tell you. There is agricultural insurance. You take agriculture, food security. These are all the things as layman, if you ask also, he will tell. But how many such projects, which these are all very ideal for startups. Without investing much, you can do wonders. Drone applications, let us say Cartosat, town planning, taxing. Let's say today, if you see how many metropolitans, how many cosmopolitans, how many district quarters, how many taluk level, how much real estate is going, how many new constructions are happening. You just see how frequently this taxation will be done by government, because government resources are not that much. If somebody can engage in assessing the new constructions and give a feedback to the local province or local administrators, And if such kind of model is developed, it'll it'll pick up like anything. Again, resource management, agricultural, food security. So these things basically, because these district administrations and government, they are more bothered down for the day-to-day administration. Such kind of innovations, innovative practices, application of technology to the real-time issues and real-time management, one has to come forward. But we are also doing mentoring the people and educating the organizations through several webinars. In fact, I have done 2 to 3 such webinars in the last 3 or 4 months. So these such kind of things have to evolve. Have to evolve. It may take some time, but smart guys, they should come forward and pick up such kind of opportunities and make a model, so that the entire uh, country will look at this model and implement the same.
Right, I definitely agree with you on the applications front, that there's a lot of work that is to be done, and also extremely big market for a lot of people trying to develop applications for India specific problems, which they can also take to many other countries in the world who face similar problems. And what is also interesting is even on the technology development front, there may be some sense of giving a direction to a lot of these up and coming startups in that sense, because most often from my perspective what I see is that a lot of the people are enthusiastic of certain technologies. Let's say somebody is interested in quantum communication, or some optical communication, or some piece of technology, or a very advanced water propulsion thruster, or something like that, right? So even on that front, where there is some ongoing research globally to produce a new technology or so on, there could be like some engagement model for these kinds of companies to come up in India as well. And what I was thinking about this is that is there a list of technologies that may be very interesting to ISRO, that is futuristic, which can be kind of published, saying if any of the startups are interested, or are capable enough to show some demos, to show at least TRL 6-7 levels of demos to ISRO, that will give them a sense of direction that this is in fact required. Because from my perspective, I think there's a lot of people who are kind of directionless because they don't know what is required and what is not required.
I agree with you, but there is a scheme in ISRO which we call it as RESPOND, research sponsored research, and it is gaining a lot, because but this program is exclusively for universities. But nevertheless, this Respond basket is available in our website, where we catalog all the advanced technologies and put it as a document form, and who is the nodal agency for carrying out this technology. This information, entire thing is available. But otherwise also, if any industry or if any individual even, if they come forward and say that we wanted to do this technology, there are several means. There are several means. Let us say we started incubation centers. These incubation centers, basically in the 6 regions, we are starting 3 already implemented, and research academia centers are there, and space technology cells are there. These are all in universities. Why? Because basically anybody who wants to do research, they require minimum platform, minimum resources. So the universities are well equipped, so that these universities can be made use of for availing these facilities by the either students or researchers or uh, industries in that area. So they can always tie up with the, if such kind of quantum energy, quantum systems you are talking about. This is a very good subject. Ultimately, the future of space is totally linked to the quantum mechanics and quantum energy. And a lot of projects we have our own plan, decadal plans, and even 20 years future long term plans are on the quantum systems, how to develop. We have published, even you take Gaganyaan, several announcement opportunities where ISRO is looking for. We have published, and of course, universities and academia, they are coming forward. But if any individual is coming forward, they are free to write letters. That is what the mechanism now opened. They can jolly well write to InSpace, and then they can get acquainted themselves for doing any research. I think now the doors are open. We are just waiting for the people to knock the door.
Right, absolutely. I think it's a very bright future in that sense. So, with respect to uh, the investment that, even for example, that a lot of these startups are doing, and or the investors are trying to make in some of these startups, are there any interactions between ISRO and let's say the investment community as such, to encourage more and more investment in space in some of these startups?
No, this not started because this startup program of late we have started very recently. In fact, we are now. I am now personally working on this collaborative meet with incubators, accelerators, venture capitalists, and angel investors. Exclusive session. Probably, I think this will work on. I am just working who are interested, especially in space domain. Soon it will happen. That's what I can say, because I have already consulted the Startup India and took the names, and personally we are getting connected with the people, those who are, we want to invite them for a discussion, and then we will throw open the full-fledged startup program. Because today the facilities government has given very clear guidelines and clearances so that our facilities can be thrown open to the industries. This is one very welcome sign. Only thing is startups have to come forward because they have to make the business case. When the business case is made, tying up with incubation centers, tying up with and we have given one more suggestion that if you can make a product or a service which are basically required by ISRO, we will assure the buyback also. So this particular proposal has been very much appreciated by very many people. We are also looking for the people who will write to us and who will just come with some homework. It's not that, because already everybody knows who has got minimum knowledge about the space sciences, because all these guys are very qualified, very smart guys, and they are very much aware of the requirements, whether they wanted to choose the uh, let us say rocket propulsion side, or navigation side, or application side, or propellant side, or chemical side, or fabrication side, whatever the area that they choose, they should come with a minimum homework, so that we'll also be clear, because I do not know what their capability, what their interest is. Simply if I say these opportunities are there, they may not meet the requirement, first aspect. Or otherwise also, whatever is required by ISRO, we have already published in terms of this respond bucket. Even right now you can just type in ISRO respond basket ISRO, you will get 150 to 200 page document where many cases are available, which are probable research areas for ISRO for future missions. So I am expecting only the individual has to knock the door, and they should come one step forward, and we will go one step forward. That's what I think, that approach we should adopt. In fact, your investment and other things are concerned, we are also just making our own assessment on how viable this particular space business for startups, which are all the areas. In fact, with the AGI collaboration, I have organized 2 months back one seminar where I have called all the big industries which are involved in the space applications domain. They have shared their thoughts, and I am just expecting for startups who will pick up, and people are available both at NRSC and both at IAST also is very prominent nowadays to impart the technical know-how. We are ready to discuss with them if any viable thing, if interest coincides with our requirement or otherwise also. We are ready to encourage the industries, but they should come with minimum homework on which area they want to work. With that one, I think the things will improve in maybe a couple of months or even less than 1 year. I am expecting that the things will improve.
Right, absolutely. And one of the interesting things that I have seen, internationally now, looking at some of the countries with respect to how they are engaging the space agencies, one of the models that I really liked recently are from South Africa and New Zealand. What they do in especially some of the conferences is alongside the space agency booth, because both South Africa and New Zealand have now space agencies. They have a section of the booth for many international major conferences, let's say the International Astronautical Federation, where even ISRO has a booth every single year, to give a portion, or to allocate one portion of the booth to some of the prominent SMEs or startups who can then have like a national pavilion. So it will be, they will call it like a South Africa pavilion or a New Zealand pavilion, where the space agency and some of the industry, and of course the cost is borne by the industry to pay for their own place, and it's no way subsidized in that sense. But overall, it gives a very good image that the industry gives the brand that ISRO will carry to reflect that to the industry, also will open up a lot of this opportunity to the industry. So I wanted to suggest this and also get your opinion on this.
No, it's a good idea. It is a good idea. See, because what you want, you should showcase. This is one area because nobody will talk about you other than yourself. Then what are the capabilities you are expecting? Also, the expectations also should be told. It's not enough if we say that I want rocket people who can manufacture the rockets to come and take the share. It's not enough. What your expectations? The third thing is what you help them. If these three things in international, because I have attended several international conferences, we also share whenever the international people come for either for face-to-face discussion or through emails, we do share with them what kind of things we expect from them. And yes, I agree with you. The international platforms will by and large propagate such kind of requirements and connect the people. I agree with you.
So again, thank you so much for taking a lot of your time. I have just last couple of questions with respect to the future of how this whole program, will move forward. So in the near future, as well as in the fairly, distant future, and let's say a 5 to 10 year roadmap that you might have internally for CBPO, um, what do you think, will have happen in the ecosystem, in the next, let's say 1 or 2 years, then possibly what would be the goals for 5 year, and then maybe further in 10 years?
You mean to say that ISRO or global?
No, not just ISRO, as in, through your current work with the CBPO for, within ISRO, as well as ISRO's engagement with the industry, as well as from an industry outlook itself.
No, I already shared with you because ISRO is very committed for expanding the space domain. One is research front, ISRO will be more concentrating, and routine works, even it is a mandate by the government, the routine productionization works will be given to the industry, provided if they come forward. And we do share the technologies, necessary technologies, and we train them and we will handhold them so that the ISRO will be relieved from the routine works, the same build to print kind of thing, build to works. And I'm sure the industry will pick up and will raise to the occasion, will pick up and relieve ISRO for doing advanced things. Now ISRO's immediate goal is Gaganyaan, and we are also acquiring the different technologies through industry, and we are also doing in-house research for several systems. In fact, through academia, uh, through industry, we are doing that one. Immediate our goal should be qualifying and meeting the Gaganyaan objectives set by Government of India. And parallelly, we are also concentrating on increasing the payload, communication payload, because most of the communication payloads are 6K. So once the development process is completed, probably India would become self-reliant even for the communication satellites also. Then the number of the launches are going to increase based on the global demand, because in this, ISRO has got resource constraint in terms of manpower or in terms of other resources. We are now encouraging the industry to bridge the gap. So parallelly, ISRO will be doing the work what is intended to be done, but the industry has to pick up, has to grab this opportunity, global opportunity. And we expect that, especially in the electronic front, we wanted to see the Indian industry should raise to the occasion. And we also expect that because of the socio political and socio-economic situation prevailing in the country today, probably many more industries, we expect that they will invest in India for obvious reasons. And India, because of the talented manpower, the interesting thing is most of the manpower is less than 30, more than 50% of the human capital is less than 35 years in India. A qualified youth is available in India, and most of the people are English speaking people, so that the European and African and American countries, they would not have any problem. The cost of labor is very competitive in India. Now Indian government has shown positive indications for FDIs and for investments. I think taking all these opportunities, I think what we expect is a lot of industrialization is going to happen in India, which will in turn create Indian industries as tier 3 partners or tier 2 partners to supply uh, to the tier 1 partners, so that industrial growth is expected to be increased phenomenally in the coming years. And of course, the global also, it is our duty, because space is one area where the country's boundaries will not matter much, because cooperation, space cooperations, these are all internationally proven, and many nations come onto the common platform for any mission. You take it as Chandrayaan 1, Chandrayaan, many astrosat, such kind of things, where international space agencies come together and do common research, because why to waste money for a common thing. So in space domain, there is no such kind of competition as far as the demarcation of the boundaries are concerned. This space business, we expect that it will grow in the near future. 2 years probably the lead time, maybe because of the COVID situation. I'm not expecting much dramatic changes in 1 year to come. But what definitely I expect within next 5 years, there's going to be a boom in the Indian industry, especially in the space domain.
Sudheer, thank you so much for taking an hour of your time in giving a very good insight into a lot of your experience and insight from your eyes. I think it's a very fascinating conversation. I took a lot of this, and it also will give a lot of the listeners of this show a very good insight into the whole evolution of this engagement with the industry and how it's happened over the period of the last decades, and how it is going to set the tone for the future. So again, thank you very, very much for taking the time out in recording this podcast episode with me.
Thank you, Narayan. I think I think you have given me an opportunity to speak out what I have internally. I think you should benefit the young generation, qualified youth, to build the nation. And we normally Indians have a belief that the entire universe is one family. That is the faith Indian philosophy and Indian traditional people have got. So in the space, especially, there is nothing like the the demarcation between the countries and between the things. We hope that India, our space domain will grow, India will grow, and world will grow. Thank you. Thanks a lot.